Welcome back to North Dakota Today. It is 9:14, and joining us today is Paulette Bullinger. She has a wonderful and inspirational story to share with you because so many of the people that I know have said to me, I really want to write a book, and yet we talk about it, we don't do it. So this is kind of about the book, but it's also about making your dreams come true. And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is something that's kind of like on everybody's bucket list. I want to jump out of an airplane. I want to go to Nepal, or I want to write a book. So was that the case for you?
That was the case for me. Actually, I had this story since I was like a teenager. A great aunt of mine had given me this newspaper clipping when I was a teenager, and she said that something happened here with this young woman who passed away in my hometown of Huff. When I was, she was like 1912, but I got this clipping from my great aunt, and she said, somebody should really find out what really happened here. And so I had the clipping all those years, and I always thought it would make a really good story, and I tried to give it to a couple different authors, but nothing became of it, so I always kept the clipping. In fact, I literally wore it out making copies of it and trying to hand it out to people.
Right.
But finally, I was fortunate enough to go to a American Red Cross Ruby Forest fundraiser, and it was a bucket list kind of a fundraiser, and I had a ticket and I put it in the one to write a novel because I knew I had a story, and luckily I won the bucket, and I got a chance to work with Jameson Ridenauer. He is a professor and an author. He teaches at the University of Mary, and so I got a chance to work with him for 1 year to write my own novel.
Wow.
So I met him with the first at Barnes & Noble, and I showed him my idea, and he thought it was really good. In fact, he said something like, I want to see the movie.
Okay.
So I started working with him. I would just write whatever came to mind. I would just start writing down, and he would kind of edit it and give me suggestions.
He kind of mentored you as you
yeah,
through
he
the whole
mentored me.
process.
Right.
Well, did it come easily? I mean, did you just sit down and write it, or was it, how did you do it?
Actually, the idea was pretty easy, but I wanted it to be historically factual. So I spent a lot of time at the Historical Society going through old newspapers and just to see what kind of cars people drove. I had a ton of old pictures from my great aunt that had from the late 1800s, early 1900s, people that I used as my people in my book, how they looked, how they dressed.
So can you capsulize what the book is about?
It's basically, to me, about a woman who tries to control her own destiny, not only in this life, but in the next.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's okay, so
All right.
is there tell us a little bit about the plot.
Well, the idea is that this woman had done something terribly wrong when she was younger, and she decides that because of her religious beliefs, that she could still have a pretty successful life here. I want to say she was a little schizophrenic, something paranoid, something like that. She had mental issues. But she also thought that she could have everything here in life she wanted in this life, but also she was afraid of eternal damnation.
What would happen in the next?
Right.
Okay. Now, there are some critics out there that say when you start delving into this topic of what you call historical fiction, that you're taking certain historical facts and then building that and taking, I don't know, can I say taking liberties with historical facts? What exactly is this all about?
One of the things I did, I was real careful about, is I was careful about changing names and towns and things like that, because there's still people, like in my hometown, there were probably 25 people in town when I grew up there. And there are probably people that are reading into this probably more than what is necessary. They probably think, well, that's that person and that's that person. So I need to be careful to change things, but still I wanted to have events like, for example, the fact that in 1912 the Titanic sank, and in 1910 Halley's Comet, and those kinds of fun things. And a lot of it is around Bismarck-Mandan area here.
Okay.
So it makes it all the more fun for people who like to read about the local history.
All right.
And what's really made it fun for me is I have people I can talk to all the time about the history. For example, I was just telling Monica in the break that we went out for dinner with a friend last night, and I said I didn't know what I was going to talk about here for 10 minutes or whatever. And 2 hours later, we're still talking to this guy about history around the area here. So
Sure.
there's a lot of fun things.
Hey, I'm a new resident here, and I am constantly learning some fun, interesting facts about this place we live in. And so I get what you're saying. You identified because you live here.
You
Right.
enjoy the research too?
I did. I enjoyed the research. When I went to University of Mary, my major was in history. I changed it later on to social work. And how I became a media buyer, I don't know. But it was through a lot of different things. And now we were just talking about Mick Jagger and Cher later in life, still doing their thing. But, you know, here I am, 39, and I write a book.
So, all right, let's get back to square one and the whole concept of making your dreams a reality. And you know, it's one thing to just sit there and say, "Gosh, I wish I could do this," or "I wish I could do that." But I would assume that there's some work involved. And Monica, you probably can relate to this. You're a published author as well, so it's not enough just to sit there and say, "Oh, I wish this would happen." You have to take certain steps in order to make your dreams come true. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, yes. I had to first outline kind of how I wanted the plot to kind of go.
Okay.
Then I had to spend a lot of time. I mean, I didn't want to say that for example, a Model T had, you know, inner tubes. I had to make sure that my facts were when people read it, they'd go, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's how it was back then."
Because they'll tell you.
They will tell you. And I spent a lot of time doing that. My husband ate a lot of tuna fish sandwiches.
Because you were busy.
Because
with
I
your
was
book?
busy.
Okay.
Because I'd get started and then I just couldn't stop, and I'd find it's 3 in the morning and I'm still writing, and I've got to be at work at
Sure.
7:30. So it was just a lot of spending time just writing, doing, working out different scenarios, and then
So did this process just become consuming?
it came consuming. Yes, it did. In fact, when I told my husband I was going to start another book, he goes, "Oh no."
Were there surprises for you in this? Things you didn't expect?
I think the biggest surprise was after it was published, when people start telling me they really like the book. That was really surprising to me.
Why did that surprise you?
I don't know, because I don't have a journalism degree, I don't have a literature degree, I don't have an English degree. I did have a love of reading. When I was a kid, you know, growing up in a small town, there wasn't much else to do. When the bookmobile came, that was a really big deal. And so I read all the Nancy Drews, I read all the Hardy Boys, I read. And so for anybody right now who wants to pursue this same kind of thing, I would suggest start reading, just
Right.
reading anything. And read as much as you can. My granddaughter, Bailey, she is really interested in writing. In fact, when we go on girls' trips, she's always writing different things down. But she's a big
She's
reader.
inspired by you.
Yeah. So yes.
All right.
So anyway, yeah, I just got an email this morning of somebody just telling me how much they enjoyed the book, and it is a Pride of Dakota product, so I get to talk to a lot of North Dakota people, and I like to talk our history. So.
Great.
Well, Paulette, what's next?
Right, next is probably, I've got all of my dad's World War II stuff. He was a farm boy from St. Anthony. He joined the big war, and he went to France, and he went to a lot of different places in Europe. I have his letters he wrote home. I have all of his notes from his different...
So it's another historical novel.
Yeah,
in here.
it's
I'm
kind
getting
of
that,
that.
getting that feeling there.
That, and then I have another idea, too, there was a pastor who had a baby in Mandan at the Mandan Hospital, and his wife died during childbirth.
Oh my
and
gosh.
he wanted to give the baby up, and
All
so he
right.
tried to enlist the help of the nurses. So that might be my next.
So once we get her started, we can't get her to quit. Now, pretty soon she'll be internationally famous.
All right.
All right, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here today. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who want to try it, just whatever your dream happens to be, go for it.
Yeah.
Give
All right.
it some time.
9:23. Chef Tony's on the way cooking pork tenderloins. Stick around.